Well, the future of automotive transportation could be at an inflection point as ride-sharing, self-driving, and electric cars are becoming a larger part of everyday life. And proponents of those technologies are pointing to a future that promises reduced traffic, cleaner emissions, and easier access to rides for all. But is that really the case? Well, a new book called 3 Revolutions says that none of that is guaranteed without proper action from policymakers. I'd like to welcome the author and director of the Institute of Transportation Studies at the University of California, Davis, Professor Dan Sperling, joining us now on the show. Professor Sperling, thank you so much for joining us. So, in a way, businesses like Uber and Lyft wouldn't exist if they didn't flout the law in the early days, but in some cases they've taken it too far. I mean, Uber is on the receiving end of a couple of federal investigations at this point. What is wrong with that picture?
Well, the picture is that they really are the first step towards this better future. It's a necessary step. They've really opened the door to using smartphones and these information technology routes to make it easier to access high-quality transportation.
So how do you think regulators should be approaching ride-sharing? Let's start with that.
I think it's a simple story, and that is what they should be doing is encouraging and favoring pooling rides. In other words, Uber runs a service called Uber Pool, Lyft has Lyft Line, there's other kinds of microtransit services like Via, and what we need to be doing is getting as many people as possible onto those pooling services. So we need policies to encourage it. And the good news is we're not swimming upstream. Those companies are very positive and supportive of that.
And what about when it comes to self-driving? Farther into the future, but in some cases happening now.
Yeah, in some cases it is happening now. There are a number of cars you can buy that will go down the freeways under their own control and steering. I wouldn't advise it for very long, but it's the first step. The partial automation is here. What we're really aiming towards is full automation, fully driverless. And it is going to happen. And the market is pulling it. People like it. The companies are really committed to it. So it's going to happen.
When is it going to happen?
If I knew the answer to that, I'd be a very rich person. There are companies and people saying there will be driverless cars in 2 or 3 years. They're possibly right, but it would be only in a very limited area and would be geo-fenced. And so in that case, companies like Uber and Lyft find that very attractive, and they might do it. An individual, you wouldn't want an automated car that you can only use within a small area. So for individual purchase, it'll probably be longer. But I can see it in 3 or 4 years in very limited applications. It'll be a while, though, before it's available in a mass market way and widely available and able to be used in a larger area.
So what do you think the tipping point will be in order for self-driving cars to become more mainstream?
The tipping point is when the regulators approve it, frankly, because people will buy it. The costs have to come down. The costs are coming down quickly, but as soon as it's commercialized, those costs are going to drop dramatically. It'll take a few years, so it's really as soon as the regulators really allow these cars to be operated really driverless, it will take off. But there'll be steps along the way.
How optimistic are you about the Trump administration laying the groundwork for the rules that you believe need to be in place in order for this future to happen?
I think there's a tendency in Washington with the regulators and the Trump administration to in fact fast track it. And there's some concerns that they're doing it actually too fast. So there's going to be questions that states and others are going to raise that is the technology really ready? And frankly, it comes down to what's our tolerance for crashes. You get the technology out there, and the first time there's a few crashes, there's going to be a PR disaster, and that could block it. So there's this tension between supporting and nurturing innovation, but on doing it in a way that is acceptable for the public arena.
All right, Professor Dan Sperling of UC Davis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.